I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. In October of 1985, a woman named Sheree Warren left work at a busy Salt Lake City office
to meet her estranged husband at a downtown auto dealership.
She never made it home. Sheree's car surfaced weeks later in Las Vegas.
In the parking lot of a hotel casino.
No one knows how it got there.
Strange. It was strange.
Both Sheree's estranged husband and her boyfriend raised suspicion for investigators.
I kind of thought that he might have done something.
But no arrests were ever made. In Cold Season 3, we dig into double lives, make new connections in the case, and examine the difficulty raised by reasonable doubt.
We want answers just as much as anyone else.
They have creeps like that now too, so nothing's changed.
That's the new Cold Season 3, The Search for Sheree, now available anywhere you get your podcasts.
Project Recovery. You guys like the music?
I love the music.
I like it. My girlfriend says, I think it's too loud and too happy.
It's never too loud. If it's too loud,
you're too old. That's right. If this studio's a rockin', don't come a knockin'.
What do you mean too happy? How can it be too happy?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Well, Project Recovery. So we've launched. We're up and running. It's been a whirlwind couple of days.
It's been really busy, right?
Yeah.
I picked you up at 4:15. I think I was 5 minutes late. 4:20.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, yesterday
What's up with
morning.
the doctors always making me wait?
Right? I think that's part of our code, secret code.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys all get behind the
Got to
room
make
and
people
go,
wait.
Yeah.
It increases how I feel about myself.
When I used to work in radio, we'd do the state fair, and behind the booth of the radio desk, we'd have mullet counts. And so we'd count mullets.
Yeah.
It was a way to pass the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a real ADHD statement, Casey.
What's
what's ADHD? That's another show.
Okay, we'll
right.
talk about that because here on Project Recovery, we talk about all things recovery. And we kind of want to talk about the launch and what happened. You're right. You picked me up 5 minutes late. It was about 4:22.
But we had a huge. You're counting, man. 4:22.
I know exactly when it was.
We had a window of time though. We got there early. We had to be there early yesterday morning.
So we did KSL morning news. We had a story run Tuesday night at 10.
Right, and that was highlighting your story, kind of the background of why we're doing this podcast.
You kind of the spark.
Yeah, what happened to Casey? Where'd he go? You know, that sort of thing.
And what's he doing?
Yeah, what's he doing?
And I can tell you, prior to the story running Tuesday night at 10, Facebook and social media, they put out, as they call them in the industry, little teasers to get some attention and have people check out the story.
Yeah.
And, that started off kind of a wild 5 days for me.
Yeah, busy a lot. Well, I think what I'm curious about. I mean, I was there with you, and we did the interviews and TV and radio yesterday, and but I'm curious how it's affected how you've been feeling because while I've known for a long time what happened with you and close friends and family, some of your colleagues in the industry know, but now everybody knows. Now you've put the story out there, and it was fairly open.
This was a pretty raw statement. It was kind of a I want to say, for lack of a better term, coming out party.
Yeah.
Of where's Casey been, what happened, and kind of a final saying of what transpired.
And I think people, some of the people that came up and spoke to me in between the things we were doing yesterday were, I don't know if taken aback was the right word, but they were surprised, I think, at how open you were in your interviews for the TV spots and the radio spots we did, including, KSL ran not just your mugshot, which is pretty nice, by the way.
Yeah, I'll never. My girlfriend goes, "Hey, is there anything you can do that's going to move that down on the Google bar? Because if you Google Casey's name, that still pops up first."
Yeah,
she goes,
and it's going to for a while.
Yeah, she goes, "If you could do something really cool," and I said, "Well, I'm trying."
She wants you to shape up and change the Google bar. Yeah,
yeah.
Well, there was that, but more than that was I was a little surprised myself how much footage of the actual accident that they used, including pictures of inside of your car, the accident at the intersection, all of that. How did you feel about seeing all that up on the screen for everybody to look at?
It was the truth. And, we've talked about this, and I've said this before while in recovery. They used to say all the time, we run an honest program. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm moving forward now, is an honest program.
I find, though, that to be honest, that's everybody likes that idea, but it's a lot harder to pull off true honesty than it is to talk about it.
Yeah, you're right. And, I'm still guarded in some respects on certain things, my family and my kids. But I did sit down with my kids and I said, hey, listen, I knew the story was going to run on Tuesday. I sat my kids down on Friday, my two oldest, and I says, hey, they're going to run this story. And my kids were like, well, what's the story about? And I said, well, it's kind of about the DUI and me going to rehab, and a lot of this stuff is going to get brought back up into the forefront. And I just want to give you guys heads up and let you know because you didn't really get warning last time.
No, and I think that's really fair and good of you to have done because when you and I were kids, if one of our parents had been going through that, it would have been the nightly news that would have come on. But now every kid in the junior high is walking around with a smartphone, and they can pull up pictures of all of the story and everything. And
I had to talk to my family and my brothers and my dad and my mom and say, hey, this is coming again. I mean, because it's been 199 days since the accident.
Yeah.
And like I said on the TV, that's the longest I've been sober since I was 14.
Yeah.
And so,
had your kids? Let me just interrupt. Have your kids seen the car accident photos and all of that before? Do you think that was a new thing out, for them to see?
I think my oldest daughter's seen it.
Okay.
My youngest daughter hasn't yet. I don't have them right now. So when I do get them when it's my time to have them,
yeah.
Then I'm going to sit down and watch it with her.
Do you know how they've reacted to it?
Like,
what did they say, first of all, when you told them that you were going to be out with your story?
My oldest daughter, who seems kind of reserved, and I think that's just her guarding herself.
Is she generally that way, or just on this?
No, she's generally reserved.
Okay.
My middle child, Frankie,
so she's
just
takes
like me.
After your daughter or your wife, or ex-wife.
Yeah, my ex-wife.
Okay.
And so I said, "Hey, this is going to happen," and she goes, "Whoa!" And I showed her the clip where she mentioned that it wasn't all about me. She went through this with me, and she goes, "Heavy. That's heavy, Dad."
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I went, "Yeah, it is."
She's a thoughtful kid. Huh?
And she goes, where's this going to go? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. I think we're on to something special, and I think we can really make a difference. And she goes, okay, Dad, good luck.
Yeah.
And I said, okay.
All right. So you're going to follow up with the kids then and see how they're feeling about it.
Yeah.
When they come to
visit. I did ask my oldest daughter. I said, hey, when I was in rehab and, throughout this whole thing, did a lot of your friends mention it? And she goes, not one.
Huh. Okay.
And I said, did they not know? And she goes, no, I finally asked them, and they said, no, we knew. We just didn't want to make you feel bad.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
But then she goes, but Dad, I would rather him have talked to me about it because I wanted to talk to somebody about it.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? Which is, I understand.
Good. That's healthy, yeah.
Because, you probably want to talk to someone like-minded or a peer,
Mm-hmm.
and
there's a lot of power in kids talking through their stress with their peers. Absolutely.
I'm shaking right now just because, I'm thinking of her having to deal with these heavy topics and these heavy subjects and these kinds of you know what I mean? That's not what a 14-year-old should be thinking about.
No, but it's like you said, it's real and honest. I mean, that's what's going on in your life, but it's happening in a lot of people's lives. That's why we're doing this show. And we don't want to just highlight the person who's struggling with the addiction, but also how it impacts their friends and family. That's a real, if we can't get that conversation going, we're never going to really make progress, I don't think, with this issue of addiction and recovery.
And that was kind of our goal when we started this, was just to start a conversation. Mm-hmm. Good or bad, we want the conversation to be started.
Yeah.
And I think just with the first 2 episodes and the story and everything that's out there, I think there's been some conversation started.
Yeah, in fact, even just yesterday morning in the studio, I'm not going to remember the person's name because I was just meeting them for the first time. They said that they couldn't have done what you did as far as coming on the air and being as open and honest about it as possible and answering all the questions that you were asked. Because I think so many of us would struggle with embarrassment, shame, and fear of judgment by other people. Has that been something that you've thought about, worrying what people are going to think about you now?
You were talking to the guy who got caught on fire by trying to light on skis.
One time. Once. Just once.
John
I set
lit
you on fire one time.
Yeah, but...
boy, you can't let that go.
No, and my girlfriend will tell me all the time, she goes, I'm going to embarrass you. And I go, good luck.
That's true.
But am I embarrassed? 100%.
I'm sure, yeah.
But I've also got to own it. And people came up to me and said, why would you do this? And I didn't know any other way to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's been 199 days, and that's a long time. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it could have just gone away. Not the accident, not that, but I could have just gone into a different field, done something different.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? And kind of
faded out of the public eye.
And
right?
acted like it never happened and moved on. But there's something about you once you go through a rehab center or you get in the recovery community about giving back because somebody made a difference for you. When you're in your darkest point and you don't have anywhere to reach and you look up and there's a therapist or somebody in your group that's gone through what you did and goes, hey, it gets better.
Yeah.
It does get better.
And feeling, I think most of us probably want to be independent, take care of ourselves, deal with our own business. We don't really ask for help or want help a lot. I think I'm that way, and most people are. And so having that experience, what was that like, realizing this was an issue totally out of your control and you were going to be totally dependent on help from strangers?
Strangers, family. I think you just turn yourself over and, at that point, and hope for something bigger, hope for something better, and hope for a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what we want this podcast to be, is hope. Or just to start the conversation.
Well, I think, starting the conversation, a lot of times people leave that up to other people. And when you and I were talking about, like, are we going to do this show? What's it going to be like? How are we going to structure it? The idea came up, that you could have just done something else, but that you felt kind of an obligation. You have a unique opportunity. So many people have been in the exact same position you were in. Drinking or some other substance caused them to create an accident, and they don't have the microphone, so to speak, that you potentially had. And, to be honest, I was impressed with KSL's willingness to put this on the air and give you an opportunity to do this. So, why did you want to take that microphone and do this as opposed to, go get a job? Heaven knows it might pay more somewhere, doing a job that you wouldn't have the opportunity to reach so many people.
Because it just felt right. It felt like the right thing to do. I think when I was in Pinnacle Recovery Center and I saw what the true face of addiction looked like, I realized that it was a bigger problem and that people aren't talking about it and people aren't getting help for one reason or another.
Well, you mentioned there were people like police officers or former police
officers. And,
people that might not normally, they're usually the help givers. How hard was it for some of those people you were working with, athletes, people that have been, well known by others, local professional and college athletes, right?
Yeah. You couldn't walk into a room and just see all these different people and go, wow, we all have something in common. Mm-hmm. Something's got power over us and we can't figure it out. But together, if we share our stories, we learn proper tools, we might just get through this. And so that's kind of what was going on. And yesterday, as I'm sitting down and Facebook and Instagram and social media is exploding. I mean, there's good comments, there's bad comments. And I spent 2 days and I read every comment. I switched on every link. I went and looked at other different people's posts and I read them. And there was some good and there was some bad.
There's some bad meaning critical, right?
Yeah. And
not necessarily bad, because people have the right to say what they want to say and have their reactions, but definitely critical of you, and even critical of you doing this show and going on the air. What do you think about that? How hard was that?
I think it's even fair to say that there were some people that were downright angry. I mean, not just critical; they were angry.
That's fair.
But I think everybody gets to have a voice, and what I've learned through my recovery is that your voice is valid, and you get the right to do that, and you get the right to be heard, and you were heard, and I'm hearing you, and I'm trying to do the best that I can. I've never sat down behind this microphone and says, "Hey, I've got this figured out, and I'm going to take you guys to the top of the mountain." Because if you're following me, whoa. That's not good. What I told you is that if you listen to this, I'll be as honest with you as I can, and I will share my experiences, and I will give others a microphone to share their experiences, to help you with their tools, to show you different options that are out there that might help you overcome something that's got power over you.
So let's test that theory.
Okay.
Let's test the Honest program. And so I want to have you talk just for a second about something that may be kind of hard to talk about. We haven't shied away from it. You haven't shied away from it, but we have a little bit longer to talk about it today on this show. And that is, there's been a lot of that anger that John mentioned and criticism has been about the fact that there was a family in the accident that you caused. And how do you feel about that?
I think about them every day. I am thankful that nobody died. I hope one day to be able to sit down and talk with that family and show them how sincere I am, and show them, because of this whole ordeal, I'm a better person, and I'm trying to make good, and I'm trying to do something positive out of this.
Yeah.
I haven't handled it the best.
Well, what do you mean by that? What could you have done more?
I don't know. Right when I got out of Pinnacle after 52 days, I just get my head back. I get everything kind of figured out where I need to go. I'm delivering furniture. I remember I found out that there was a family.
And that's something, just to interrupt real quick, you weren't really aware of who was involved in the accident during your recovery. No. I think that's a surprise to people.
No, I mean, to be honest with you, two things that I found out in recovery, and it was a big family discussion because nobody wanted me to tell me anything because they just wanted me to work on myself. Mm-hmm. I found out my 14-year-old daughter kissed a boy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's not fun.
No.
You don't want to find that out in rehab.
No.
I was just sitting around on a Sunday, talking. And
I have a 13-year-old daughter, so don't get me going.
And I was just messing around, and I was like, "You've never kissed a boy, have you?" And she goes, and my youngest daughter goes, "Yes, she has!" And I was like, "What?" And I was like, and she goes, "Yeah, Dad."
Yeah, you missed out on that.
Yeah, and then a week later, my brother calls me up, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "I'm in rehab, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm just checking to see how you're doing."
Yeah.
So I'm doing all right. He goes, "I got something to tell you."
And this is how many days in?
Probably a month.
Yeah. Okay.
Your ex-wife's engaged. So, what? He goes, "Yeah, Jeannie got engaged."
And you've been divorced just a couple years.
Yeah.
Something like that, so not that long.
And I said, "Well, good for her."
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, "You okay?" I said, yeah. I mean, because I think at that point, I just truly want her to be happy.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I've got a lot of other things on my plate rather to worry about my ex-wife, although she's been nothing but kind and good to me.
I was going to say she's been amazingly supportive and helpful during this.
Even after the story ran the other night, she sent me a text and goes, "Good job."
Oh, that's great.
And so, yeah. because I called and gave her heads up because I mean
It affects her too, right?
but I wasn't even sure to call her. And then Shara goes, "Have you talked to your ex-wife?" I was like, "No." She goes, "You might want to give her a call."
Yeah.
And then we kind of had a debate, and I was like, "Yeah, you're probably right." But I think that just goes to show you that I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing the best that I can through this whole ordeal.
And during even recovery, you were there to focus on getting clean and sober and learning the tools that we have talked about and will talk about. But, I think what you're saying is life was going on without you. You didn't know about the kiss. You found out 30 days into it that your ex-wife had gotten engaged. And I think at what point did you find out that this family had that there was a family involved in the accident? I mean, you knew you were in an accident, but nobody had been talking to you about the details because you didn't have memory for that.
Maybe 3 weeks out of rehab.
Out of rehab. Yeah. And so I think that that's important. If you've been following the Casey's story on radio, TV, or listening to our podcast, I think it's important for people to – I knew this, and I guess neither one of us realized. Other people didn't really realize that for the accident itself, you don't have much of a memory, and you didn't realize who had been involved, and it wasn't until you had gone through your treatment that you found that out.
Yeah. And so I probably haven't handled things the best, and for that I am truly sorry. And I'm working my program to figure out me and navigate this world, and I want to just take you along with me as we do this. And so that's kind of where we're going. And to be honest, we were going to do a podcast before this, but
right,
this
you left me hanging, brother.
Yeah, this whole
literally
this whole podcast is new to me, and the thing I do like about podcasts, because I listen to them, is that they're evolutionary.
Yeah, they are. They're part of a dialogue that we as listeners can be part of, and we want to take that to this story and the resources to people in town.
And we want you to grow with us. And we can grow by going to our webpage, our Instagram, Project Recovery with Casey Scott.
Nobody else, just Casey.
Yeah, no, it wasn't long enough to put and Matt Woolley.
It's fine. I'm good. I'm okay with that.
And coming up, we're going to talk about some of the response on Facebook and how you can send us a letter and maybe even be on our show.
Great.
We put your name on the logo.
It's okay.
All right. So you got one more question?
Well, so I feel like one more thing to stress is that that you have said just now and before that you hope someday you can sit down with the family and just talk with them and help them understand what you're trying to do to make your life and other lives better.
And it's my understanding right now through social media and Facebook, I've read all the comments, I've read all the stories, that they don't want to hear from me. I just wanted the listeners to understand that you've made that attempt, and they're just not ready yet, and that we totally understand that. No, because look, we're running an honest program. I have not made an attempt yet, but I've looked at the pages.
Well, but like Shara from and others have reached out and given her given them an opportunity.
Yeah, and so
when they're ready.
Yeah, when they're ready.
Yeah, and I think that's an important part of everyone's recovery. We're talking about your recovery personally from alcohol, but we also mentioned, it's affected your girlfriend and her, we're joking a little bit, but that's a little stressful for her to have that picture up on Google, right?
As we're driving in, because my girlfriend, maybe 7 months we've been together, and her mom lives in Arizona in the summer, and she's like, I got to have a talk with my mom. Because I think she knows that you had a DUI, but I don't know if she knows that you were in rehab, and I don't know if she knows about the podcast, because she doesn't know how to bring it up. How do you bring it up and go, hey, look, I really like this guy, and I really want to see where this is going.
Here's a picture of him.
Oh, yeah. Whatever you do, don't Google it. Don't Google it.
That's probably not what a mom wants to hear.
Yeah. And so, but that's this thing.
It affects a lot of people's lives.
It's a rippling effect. And you said something that I want to talk about, because as I'm reading all the comments, and I'm trying to say this in the kindest way possible, and people will say, you know what Casey's got to do? you know what he's got to do? Did he do this? Did he do that?
Right.
And you know what I mean?
A lot of opinions.
And a lot of people saying, and they're telling me that that's how they did it in their recovery. And so I've got to do it that way, or I've got to do it this way. Mm-hmm. And I've said from the first episodes, I'm doing it the best way I know how that makes sense for me. Mm-hmm. And people will, I got so many Facebook messages yesterday saying, Casey, what are you doing? And I always say, hey, listen, I'm doing it this way because it makes sense for me. This might not work for you. This might not be the way that's going to work for you. What I want to do is say there's all these different options out there that can and maybe work for you.
Right, and I think that that also on a broader scale, research around the country, what is working, and what we know is exposure to lots of different treatment options or modalities, giving people the opportunity to experiment with those and find what they connect with. If it's a 12-step program, that's wonderful, but in your case, it's been more on mindfulness and meditation. And for other people, there are other options, including spirituality and things like that. So, we appreciate, I know you appreciate, you've talked to me a lot about people caring enough to go on Facebook and make comments, and I would encourage people to continue that dialogue. You do look at and read every comment, and we talk a lot about what's there. And people are offering suggestions about what worked for them, and we want to highlight that. But we also want to make sure people understand it is not a one-size-fits-all process. That recovery is not.
I think I said it in the piece that ran on KSL. My addiction is my own, and my recovery is my own. And that's how I'm doing it because it's unique to me, and it's working for me. The thing that I loved about Facebook, it's something that really helps me in my recovery and my path to the road to recovery, is the sharing of stories. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who take a lot of time to write their story down and share it to me. And it just hits so close to home because you can see your family in their story. You can see moments in their story that relate to you. And I think that's just as powerful as any.
And really kind of one of the pillars of this show is giving people more of that. Facebook is one option, and we encourage people to use it. And we're going to bring people onto this show and give them a microphone and talk about their process or, their family's process. Like it would be interesting to have someone like your girlfriend's experience to come in and talk about what's it like being married to or dating someone who's in recovery and the unique things about their story.
My girlfriend, so we dated 2 months before I went into rehab. And, it was kind of a whirlwind, and it wasn't really very much. It wasn't
2
serious.
months is just 2 months,
Yeah,
right?
2 months. Yeah. And so I remember when I got into rehab, I hadn't spoken to her for 3 weeks.
So that's almost half as long as you dated in the first place.
Yeah. And and tell me to remind you about the text I got when I got out and finally got my phone back.
Okay.
So I call, and I'm not sure she's going to answer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And
or some guy's going to answer.
And I wouldn't blame her if she didn't.
Yeah.
And I called her, and I said, hey. She goes, hey, how you doing? I said, I'm all right. How are you doing? She goes, I'm doing good. I said, do you have a pair of running shoes? And she goes, what do you mean? I said, do you have a pair of running shoes? And she goes, yeah. I go, I put them on, and I would run away. I said, I expect to see nothing but butt and elbows.
Yeah.
Yep. And I wouldn't blame you. And she said, I remember it. She goes, I'm not happy, but I'm not saying I'm out.
Well, that's honest.
Yeah, and she goes, there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to, and so,
right.
She wasn't my girlfriend at that point. It was just this girl I was
dating, right? Yeah, absolutely. No, I remember, and you were excited about dating her.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had talked about that.
And I got out in October, and I don't think we DTR defined the relationship.
That's a Utah term for those listening outside the state.
Yeah, it's a DTR. We DTR'd.
Okay.
In December.
I was fully expecting you to go with you've been running through my mind all month, Joe.
Yeah, no,
with the running shoes.
No. I was trying to give her an out.
Yeah, make it easy.
But to her credit, she stayed.
And she's been really supportive. I know that she's really honest with you though about how she feels about some of this, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, and the difference is, your kids and your family of origin, everybody, they're stuck with you, but she could have put on those running shoes.
But I think that's going to bring me to my next point, is that community is so important.
Very much.
In my recovery, and you'll often hear me say my recovery, it's surrounding yourself with good, solid people, and that are not going to be yes people. And in my addiction, when I was drinking, if you didn't like me or you wanted to have a conversation with me, hey, I can find another person to drink with. They're everywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what you do.
And those people that are give you honest, ultimately helpful feedback, you kind of weed them out, don't you?
Yeah.
Because it's a little hard to hear when you're in that place.
Yeah, but right now, I listen. That's what, to go back, I listen to what people say now. And, there's validity in what they're saying. And it affects them. And when I was drinking, I wasn't thinking about them.
Yeah. And just to throw a little science in there, research is very clear. People who come out of a rehab program, they're clean now, and they've learned some tools and skills, they're much more likely to relapse if they don't come home to a community that's supportive and honest, the honest type of support. And people who have the family and friends that stick by them and kind of rally around and support them, they're much less likely to relapse and to maintain their sobriety. And I know that that's actually one of the treatment modalities, is helping people find that support once they leave a program.
And I'm still rebuilding. I'm still figuring myself out. I've got friends out there that I keep in touch with, that have been my best friends since.
How about this one? Yesterday, you got some messages from some friends, longtime friends, and at least one of them I know admitted to you that he or she had a drinking problem. Isn't that right? And this is the first you'd heard of it.
And it's crazy. And I've been friends with this person for 15 years.
Yeah.
15 years, and did not know. And when I got it, I was like, how did I not know?
But to me, that is our first really big measurable win of this show, is that person reached out to you and let you know that.
And if you DM me, direct message me, and you don't want to share it, I do read them. I will get back to you. You can actually go to our we've got a webpage, and it says Dr. Matt Woolley on it. It's ksltv.com, and go to Project Recovery, and you can email Dr. Matt. You can email me, and you can even upload your story.
Yeah.
And if you say, hey, it's okay to read on the air, there's a good chance we will share it on the air, because I do think stories really do bring everybody together.
Very powerful. They're relatable. One of the things that people complain about us shrinks about all the time is that we just talk about facts and figures, and it's kind of a detached conversation. And we're going to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know we touch people and motivate people through personal connection, and that's where those stories are so important.
So one of the things that I got a lot of yesterday, I got a lot of stories.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Are we going to hear about the text?
Oh, yeah, the text.
That you got when you got out of rehab?
Yeah, the text says.
You can't tease me with
that
and not tell me.
Well, see, that's why I told you to remind me.
Well, there we go.
So I go back and I go, and I thought the text said something bad. But just like a week ago, we went back and reread it, and it said, whoa, I didn't sign up for this.
And this is your girlfriend.
Yeah. I didn't sign up for this. This is crazy. Hope you're okay. Give me a call when you get out.
Oh, it's great.
I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, left a few words out. But that's hilarious. How did that make you feel? A little insecure, I bet, right?
Yeah, and here's another thing. I've still got text messages on my phone from the 52 days I was gone.
Oh, you do?
That I haven't gone back and looked at yet. And
why is that?
Scared?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm scared and
worried about maybe some of the statements. There's probably some on there for me saying, "Hey, man, I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm in the building. Where are you at?"
Because
that morning, that was the next morning, we were supposed to launch our podcast,
yeah.
and I showed up here, and I admittedly not a big news watcher. I wasn't aware until I spoke to somebody in the building what had happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm still trying to figure this all out. And by any means, I don't have this.
Turn your phone off. Turn it. It's got a mute button.
You know what? That's actually somebody from my rehab center.
All right.
Yeah.
Checking in on you.
No, he's just checking on another guy I went to because when I got out of rehab, I mean, it's kind of like a graduating class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's part of that support system.
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah, and so he was just checking to see on another guy, and that's what we do. It's like if my phone rings after 10 o'clock, chances are it's either somebody from my rehab.
Oh yeah.
Or.
Hey Matt, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of putting you on the spot here because I didn't prep you for this, but I'm kind of curious as to what the mood was here in the building
yesterday
that morning when you came in expecting to record a podcast with Casey and he wasn't here.
It was uncharacteristically down. Like, I wouldn't say down, but quiet. Typically, this is a pretty happy place, upbeat. People are, hey, how you doing? A lot of fast pace. People are moving all over the place. It took me a while to find somebody who people normally would come up and talk to me. It took me a while to find somebody and find out what happened because Casey, both on the TV side and the radio side, has made so many connections with people that everybody, I think, was kind of in shock. So it was kind of a quiet, somber atmosphere that morning here, and it hit me too. I was. I mean, I don't think I've told you this because, we're from Morgan and Ogden. We don't talk about our feelings.
Rub some dirt on it, walk it off.
Exactly. But I was shocked. I had a pit in my stomach and left here, drove over to my office and just kind of sat there for a while. And I think that's how the atmosphere was here that day. How about you? How'd you feel about it?
I was working for a competing company at the time.
Yeah, but you heard about it. You were doing the media.
I was on the radio and we were getting all sorts of texts and, Casey and I go back.
I was going to say
20
you guys,
years.
right?
Casey and I started way back on the end together.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting texts from people I haven't seen since, early 2000s going, hey, did you see what happened to Casey? What's trying to get the inside scoop from me. And I'm kind of finding out alongside everybody else, so I didn't really know.
Right.
But yeah, I was worried. I was worried sick.
Right.
And I sent you a few texts. Luckily, you responded to mine.
Yeah.
It wasn't until you got out that I.
Well, I didn't. I didn't have a cell phone.
You responded to John's?
After
you didn't respond to mine.
After I got out.
It was after he got out.
Okay.
So let's bring this back to Project Recovery.
Well, I'm just saying, it was. I consider myself very fortunate.
Well,
that you still.
We're going to talk about this later.
Yeah, we will. Speaking of messages, I got a ton of messages yesterday asking about Dr. Matt and how they can get a hold of you. Uh-huh. Now, I know you work up at the University of Utah.
I do.
You've also got a private practice, but you are pretty full. People wanted to know if you do any kind of work.
Well, I like to go to lunch.
Yeah.
Is that that's not what they meant? No. There are different ways to get a hold of me. I think, unfortunately, my clinical work is pretty busy. It is hard for me to fit in new people. However, and I will when I can. However, the thing that I really enjoy doing is talking to people and helping them find resources. I think, mental health, psychology, and addiction and recovery, they're all kind of under a large umbrella together, and it's an area of life that people don't really have experience with often. They don't know how to navigate it. How do I find somebody that can help me or my family member with what we're struggling with? And so I am more than happy to have people, what would be best, on our Facebook probably?
Well, they can go to the Facebook page, they
or,
can direct message you, or they can go to KSLTV.com, and there's actually an email.
Oh, that'd be best. So let's do that.
Email Dr. Matt Woolley.
Yeah, and if they want to email me, then I of course will read all the emails and the direct messages and help people find some resources, whether that's with me or someone else.
Hey, we'd like to thank everyone for the support of Project Recovery. Please tell your friends, give us a rating, write a review, hit the subscribe button. Thanks to Dr. Matt, our producer John the Flannel Smith, and everyone at KSL for putting this out there. Project Recovery is a KSL podcast.